Well, I think it fits right in. It's a quintessential American institution. I believe it could have only been created in America. It's obviously, like the subjects we've done, the delicate subjects we've done on war are about life and death situations. And the thing is doctors talk about things being counterindicated. Everything about the Mayo Clinic is the opposite of what we expect from hospitals and healthcare and for-profit, non-profit, all that sort of stuff within the healthcare environment. So when you learn the origin story, which has begun with a group of nuns and this small family practice on the edge of the frontier in Rochester, Minnesota, and you realize they're just named the best hospital in the United States, meaning the world, you want to know what's the secret sauce. And what's so great about Mayo is that there's no secret sauce. They're willing to share everything with everybody at all times. They're not holding things to the vest in a proprietary fashion. They're sharing it. They put their doctors on salary, no unnecessary tests and procedures. The care from the beginning to the end is focused on the patient. Seems obvious, but in our healthcare system, it's usually the doctor who's the center of things, or it's the administrator looking over the doctor's shoulder, or worse than that, it's the insurance person looking over the administrator, and it's not that. Mayo puts the patient first, and they ought to, in an environment where we're still struggling to get it right, ought to be at least one beacon that we lean towards. Just the simple answer is, it's a hell of a good story.
What got you onto it?
Just, I went there, and I'd heard about the Mayo Clinic all my life.
You went there as a patient, or you just
I went there to get a tune-up, you know, an annual checkup, and I was so impressed. Stuff that we normally take for course. You know, I had my blood taken at 7 a.m. By 8:30, 9 o'clock, all the doctors in Mayo had those tests. Not a week later, I began to delve into the history and learn the fascinating story of this devastating tornado that ripped apart Rochester, and how the Sisters of St. Francis and the Mayo, the father and his two young sons, sort of came together and made a pact. One of those sisters had a vision. Mother Alfred had a vision from God that she was to build him a hospital there in the cornfield, and that it would become well known for its medical arts. And he's kind of an agnostic. He says, yeah, sure, you'll never be able to do it. She goes, but if I do it, will you be its chief surgeon? And he said, yes. The result is the Mayo Clinic and the St. Mary's Hospital, which is still there to this day, and they are still at the cutting edge, literally and figuratively, of the best in healthcare. What could be a better story?
Yeah, Dr. Noseworthy, we've known you for years as a steward of the Mayo Clinic. We know what a fabulous institution it is, but no better praise than hearing it from Ken Burns and telling all of this. What's different about the Mayo Clinic, and why isn't it replicated in more places?
Well, I think, thanks, Becky. It's good to be back. As Ken has said, I think we're founded in our values, which is collaborative teamwork. We learned that from the Franciscans and from our founders. And we have a system of delivering care, an engineered system of delivering care. So physicians, nurses, pharmacists who are people of service are supported by an engineered system, as Ken mentioned, to allow them to be better doctors, better nurses because of the system. And shared information and making sure that everyone's on the same page. We've shared everything forever, and that's a hard culture to replicate because it is so well established. That's why people come and work there and stay there. Others who come, who we recruit, they don't fit. They're more about themselves than they are about the team or about the patient. They don't fit, and they go elsewhere. Just in terms of how selective this is, I mean, you make Harvard look like it's an easy walk-on sort of a way to get in. I'd say that. One of the things, Becky, I think 50 out of 3,000 applicants just opened up as part of the Mayo Clinic School of Medicine's inaugural class. Yeah. That's pretty selective. Well, it is selective. I think one of the interesting things that your viewers might be interested in is when a physician is recruited to Mayo Clinic, regardless of where they came from, what their other position was, they're not full members of the Mayo Clinic staff until they've been there for 3 years, and people vote them onto the staff. They fit. It's going to work out. And when that happens, we have a 98% retention rate. So they are hand selected for people who buy into the culture of sharing and putting the patient first, and that works. Ken, you're a storyteller. Tell me another cool story you learned there.
Well, the biggest thing that I'd like to say, you know, as we're approaching the broadcast of this, is that the Mayo Clinic didn't have to open up everything to us. And we have had extraordinary access to their archives, which is extensive, but also to their operating rooms, to their surgeons, to their physicians, to their nurses, and to their patients that are in the middle of a process that is life and death. And the last thing I would want would be a documentary film crew sticking a camera in my face asking questions during this process. And yet, the culture that John is talking about, that they've created there, is so special that our own modest little crew sort of fit in, and we've made friends for lives among the patients, but particularly among the surgeons and the physicians that we've met and gotten to know. And it's been one of the most satisfying experiences I've had in my professional life.
I think Cleveland Clinic, I think MD Anderson, I think Sloan Kettering, I think Mass General, Mayo Clinic, are they all different? Are they all have different specialties? They're all, I mean, you talk about healthcare in the United States. These are the preeminent places in the world.
Well, there are standalone cancer centers like MD Anderson and Memorial Sloan Kettering, and that's their focus. Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic, to give two other examples, embed cancer care with everything else they do. It's a hybrid model.
And Mass General's more, well, it's both clinical and research.
Yes, they are. And all those centers, as you mentioned, are great American institutions.
Yeah,
Ours,
amazing.
we're all a little different.
But what you said makes me think it can't be replicated everywhere. The idea that you vote people on or off the island, not everyone's going to fit in that ethos. It's not going to be healthcare for America developed that way.
Well, I think it's a model that will work for certain areas. Our specialty is patients with serious and complex illness. And that works very well to get answers quickly for those patients. And so people travel, have forever. Your film basically shows that people have migrated there for those answers. And that's what we do particularly well. That's our model, Becky.
Dr. Noseworthy, I know your tenure ends at the end of this year. You're leaving after that. We want to talk to you again just about the stewardship you've shown there and some of the challenges you've faced. So hopefully you come back again and talk to us about that.
Thanks, Becky. I'd like to do that.